All right. So, welcome. I'm going to be talking about how I'm taking notes, and it's been quite a journey for me over the last, I don't know, 2 years, let's say, when I started figuring out that I actually can't remember things as well as I thought I can. I'm going to start sharing my screen. I have some, and I'm going to actually post the things, the text that I'm going to be showing is also in this snippet. I'm going to post a snippet in the YouTube video description as well. Sharing screen. So this is Logseq. If you haven't installed it, I highly recommend doing that, even if you are going to delete it after a few days of trying. It's open source. It's as far as I can tell, it's perfectly safe to have it on your laptop. And I was looking through the source code when I was learning Clojure. But before getting ahead of myself, I want to start with talking about why am I taking notes, and that's mainly to extend my mind. I figured out that I can't remember many of things, and especially with technical stuff, but also when I'm reading books, I have these ideas or articles or snippets of code that I'm just coming back to. And usually before starting taking notes, I was always resulting back to just Googling, trying to find the same keywords that I used last time, and reading the article again and making and writing the code or figuring out the idea again. And another important thing that I didn't realize at first, but after reading Andy Matushak, and I hope I didn't butcher his name, but there is a really good article called Why Books Don't Work. And he compares like reading book with like studying university course. And when you read a book, you just ingest it, and people would like to think that you just like that's how transfer of information work. You read it, it's stored in your brain, and that's done. Whilst in reality, you need like the university format where you have the lectures, you have preparations for lectures, you have to do pre-study, you have the how's it called, like not courses, like the practical lessons, and all that will eventually result in some of the knowledge sticking in your head. And so another reason why I'm taking notes is just when I'm reading to verify that I remember what I'm reading, or no, sorry, not that I remember, that I understand what I read. Also, when I'm reading like two books and they are talking about some, let's say, psychology topic, and one is saying A and the other one is saying B. When you are just reading the book, it's perfectly possible for your brain to read first book and say, yeah, A makes perfect sense. Then a month later, you read the other book, and you say, B makes perfect sense. Of course, the arguments that the author built up make sense. And only when you start making notes as a canonical source of information for you, you realize that A and B are contradicting each other, and you need to find the correct, like you need to find your own opinion on the topic. All right, so for that, what a history of me taking notes started when I read Why Books Don't Work. I realized I need to make notes, or I want to make notes. I read about Slipbox or Zettelkasten, I guess. And as soon as I finished reading I think the book is called, just gonna have a quick look. The book is How to Take Smart Notes. It's a really nice book from Sanke Arends, and it describes the Zettelkasten really well. And so I read it, and I was thinking, okay, I need software for it. And I got really high on that, like a note-taking app on, and I tried heaps of them, starting with the archive, which is like the people who were popularizing Zettelkasten created this archive. It's on Zettelkasten there, and it's very basic app that when you see their videos, they can operate it really quickly, but it's just pretty much like this timestamp, and that's all just file names here, and then you refer to them by the timestamp, and that's how you link between the nodes. Then I started using Zettler. That's at least open source. And in the end, I created just VS Code. I created a VS Code plugin called Slipbox that was automating some of these workflows. And in the end, I found Logseq. And how I found it, or what I was looking for, was longevity. So all the other tools, or most of them that I tried, had the same set of properties, let's say. And the main one was that the notes are stored as text, just markdown. That's how I imagine that if I'm reading the notes in 10 years, I'm still going to be able to. I also tried Joplin, it's called, the tool. Joplin. It's a really nice note-taking app, really full-featured with mobile app, nice synchronization, but it stores all the data in a SQLite database. And that was a deal breaker for me. So and it's open, the Joplin is open source as well. So I wanted the app to be open source, not just because I could fiddle with the code. I can't really with Logseq, it's written in a closure and I can't do it. But I wanted it to be like, if the person decides not to do it anymore, the author, somebody can pick it up. That wouldn't be the case with proprietary apps. And locally, it must be on my computer. Nice UX was nice to have, but then I found Logseq, and it has really nice UX. I was looking into Rome Research and Athens. That's just a continuation of the history. Rome Research is pretty much the predecessor of Logseq. It's not extremely expensive, but it's quite expensive. You pay $15 a month for the same set of features, as far as I understand it. I've never tried it. And Athens, that's a Logseq alternative that was just discontinued. This space is evolving super quickly. Like bazillion new apps spawns every month, but I stopped watching about a year ago. So I recommend installing Logseq. And now I'm going to give you a quick tour of what it can do, why I like it so much. And let's just start with the basic format. You see that it has the outliner format where you can just add notes, add lines like this, and you can let's say I want to focus on this particular topic. So you jump in and you just focus on that one. I use that often when I have a journal, and I would have create a, let's say, topic saying like finish a review. And for that, I would have to look up documentation. And what I would do then, if there is lots of these to-dos and I want to focus on just one, I'll kind of like zone into that particular bullet point. Another important thing that you just saw, and it's the killer feature of all these note-taking apps, is the double bracket, like a wiki notation for linking between nodes, where you can just create note as simply as saying create note, and that's your new note, where you can link to taking notes. Was it taking notes? Note-taking in Logseq. And you can either go straight to it, or you can use Shift and open it on the side. If you would, for example, want to extend your mind, that should have worked. If you would want to drag it from one page to another, the side view is really useful. Okay, why taking? Another great thing is to do in time tracking. So if I want to, let's just say I'm going to open the journal here on the side, and I can start it to do like I did here. I can say that I'm now working on it. Now I'm pausing work. And as you see, I worked on it for 2 seconds. Then I can keep working on it again. Now it's 4 seconds. And once I finish it, It just shows the time that I worked on that to-do next to it forever. In the internal markdown, if I'm gonna open a new, I'm gonna go to my terminal here, and I would go to the notes. This is how it's give me a sec. Git add, because the journal is in a new file, so it wasn't in the div cached. So how it's represented internally is it has these tiny like a colon logbook, and then there is some logbook information. So it is still markdown underneath, but for these extra features, they add this kind of metadata on top of that normal markdown. So okay, so for example, the backlinks are really nice. Backlink in these nodes is it shows you what other nodes refer to this particular node. So let's say that here in test clarity, I mentioned automated testing. So automatically, without me having to do anything, when I'm at the automated testing, I see all the nodes that are pointing to that particular page. And just stop me if you would have any questions around any of the topics that I'm showing.
How are you automatically toggling the to-do status?
Automatically toggling?
Yeah, like when the to-do to doing, that was switching.
You click on it. You click on it.
Just a click.
And also, if you are in it, you can press Command Enter, and that rotates between the states. Okay.
A question: how is this all stored? Is it stored locally? Can you share notes with someone else?
You share it. Like it's stored.
Let's say you and I plan a trip and we want to do our trip planning together. Is that a tool for that, or is it not useful for that?
It's at the moment, it definitely can't do live, like a Google Docs style cooperation. It cannot. It can, like it's, if I'll show you.
But the thing is,
like all the files,
since it's a plain text file, you can use, if you want to collaborate on it, you can use any other collaborative text editor like Zed or the collaborative support in JetBrains, or like while you're collaborating, but still the rest of the time work with it in Logseq because they're just text files, which that's the benefit of not having a proprietary format. You can work with them in other tools.
Yeah, that's right. Like it's the Logseq, I think that the core team, they got some funding, some substantial funding. I don't know what is their business model because it's all open source, but like they got funding and they are working on a synchronization feature that would be what they would offer and you would pay for, that they store and synchronize your node between different Logseq instances. But just to answer your question, this is how it's stored. So you see that there is like journals, all the journals that you saw in that journals view here. I before the presentation, I deleted my journals. I've read a lot of like introspection stuff like that. I didn't want to share that with YouTube, but all of those files are as a timestamp in this folder. Then you've got your pages. So let's say we looked at the automated testing. So this is how it looks. It's pretty. Actually, this is a leftover from my old note taking. So you can see that it can handle markdown files just fine, even without you porting them. Like you don't have to go into each file and put the dashes there. This is from when I was still taking notes in VS Code, and I was just able to link The only requirement is that the name of the page is reflected in the file name. So it can't be the timestamp dash something. It needs to be the name that you are using. But let's have a look at the note-taking in Logseq. So this is how it looks on a disk. It's just a text file with lots of these dashes. It uses the tabs and indentation. All right. Some other cool features, we still have some time, is queries. So for example, I'm filtering based on, I have these pages, and if they are, I'm using the public attribute. Attributes are another, actually can show it. You can add metadata to each of the pages. It's mainly used for advanced queries, but I'm also using it for exporting these pages to my blog. Just based on the metadata, I have a small command line utility that transfers the pages in my Hugo Go blog. But if, for example, if I have if I have this public true, that means that in that filter, it shows in the books that I've already read. If there is not public true, it shows in the table of books I'm still reading. So you can write using, I think it's some dialect of a data log language. You can write these queries. It's not super easy, but you can find examples that you just tweak a little bit. What I'm using sometimes is templates. You can just use /n template to pick, for example, a structured decision, let's say. And this creates a whole section or block of my notes for when I'm making some important decision. I can just fill it up and then revisit the decision a little bit later. And now how I create the templates, you ask, it's super simple. If I just go to maybe decision journal, how to keep decision journal. Here we go. Just under each block, you can just create this template property. It's literally typing template : and then the name of the template. And since then, it's going to show in your template dropdown. And it's just going to paste whatever has this property template, it's just going to paste it there.
And that template can exist in any file, or does it have to be a certain
it's
file?
just,
okay.
Yeah. How it works, like when you have the notes, you pretty much say where the graph is, and then you need to say reindex. And I'm not going to do it now because I would lose, for example, the history of the files that I'm going through, and this would refresh. But then it goes and it takes all the files on your local file system and loads them in memory. In there, it uses this closure, can't remember the name. It's like a browser database. It's a data log database that it all loads into, and then it keeps the files in sync when you are changing them with the file system. But it mainly uses the in-memory representation for being able to do the linking and knowing where the templates are and doing the full text search that you can do with Command K. Okay, I'm gonna just, if it lets me, it doesn't. Yeah, it does. With Command Z, remove the template. Backlinks, I've showed them. I showed how easy it is to create new links. Block refs. It's something that I don't use too often, but what I usually, when I'm writing notes from reading a book, I then take the particular notes, like I'm just making unsorted list of like, this is interesting, this is interesting, this is interesting. And then I figure out the high level notes, and I move the blocks there. I'll show you how I would do that actually. Let's say that I wanna, from while taking notes, I wanna move this as an interesting idea to labor versus idea work. So this is my book notes. I'm moving this block here, but then I would like to know that it was originally in my book notes here. And so I'm gonna copy the block ref. That's just a big hash. I'm gonna paste it here. And since then it just takes this block and references it here. It shows it as a little icon, pen icon here. And also it should, I don't know why it doesn't. Maybe I would need to refresh my graph. Maybe there is a bug, but it should show a little one here that would show where it is, where that idea came from. So just if you are making notes from books, that might be interesting. And shortcuts for if you want to use, for example, let's say that something happened today. Something happened. It automatically in your journal, there is little like references here. So for example, if I, instead of something happened, it was like I bought a computer, you would also see it in this day view, but also wherever you were making that note from. That's really useful. It also works in the future. Like I can say, tomorrow, don't forget to buy tea. And then if I'll have a look at journals, there should be somewhere, I'll see. It would be there tomorrow, but I thought that there should be a next up, but maybe it would be only if I made it into, maybe only if I make it into a to-do, then it's going to be as a next up. Yeah. But if it wasn't, if it's not to do, it only is going to show when the day comes. It's going to show in the linked references. Oh. And date picker is really
special
good.
syntax for a link that has special behavior. Is there like a documentation list of all of the different types of links with special behavior, like dates and stuff?
I would think so, but dates are the only ones that I can, like that they have, that
Okay.
have that behavior. At least the only ones that I'm using. Maybe there is some other. One of the pain points that I'm going to mention is that the Logseq is growing in feature set so much that I'm not even tracking what it can do. And I'm a little bit worried about the maintainability of it, since like, how are you going to keep backwards compatibility when you introduced hundreds of features? I would prefer to have a small core that can do the 10 things that I'm using it for, but what can I do?
Yeah, and that's sort of why Obsidian appealed to me. Like it has a VS Code based JavaScript plugin ecosystem, which the downside of that is it's bespoke, right? And they may not work together, but the upside of it, like VS Code, is like you can also hack it yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's just JavaScript plugins.
Yeah, that's definitely the benefit. The drawback of the VS Code based flows I found was that you don't have the instant rendering. I quite often use images. Maybe I can remember using, maybe, what is it called? Hill chart. What's that? What? Okay. I
Like
have
when
no
I said
idea.
VS, like Obsidian, I didn't literally mean it's in VS Code, but you can tell it's an Electron app, and it's got the same paradigm that the plugin ecosystem is just JavaScript plugins like VS Code.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just wonder whether when you are editing the code, whether it, like, how it handles switching between the rendered view of Markdown and the editing, because here, like, maybe I don't know why the image doesn't work. That's I'll have to debug that, but maybe there is something like, what is it? Syntax, Matrix syntax. Like here, it renders. Or if I'm using I'm going to show it a little bit later, but when I'm using Mermaid or something, it's just like you go into the one bullet point, you edit it, and the moment you move out of the bullet point, it gets rendered as Markdown.
Right. It's a block based editor like Notion, for example, as opposed to a full rendered preview paradigm.
Yeah, which really works well for me. I like that compared to, I worked for about a year with just plain VS Code. I'm sure that Obsidian is better than just plain VS Code, but I was editing the Markdown files. But when I started doing something with, like maybe another thing I'm going to try to find, like what would illustrate why like this rendered view better would be something like bias theorem that had some images in it. Yeah. So like the moment I would just want to do something with the image, and also I can just paste a new image there. I don't know how, like if I'll take a screenshot here and I'll wait for a little bit, I have a little script that takes that screenshot file and downsizes it by 50%, so it's not so humongous, and optimizes the PNG so it's not that humongous. I'm waiting for a little rotating. Yeah, that's it. So I'll wait. And now I can paste it here, and it's just like moves that asset into my asset folder, which is again like here in the Git, I would be able to see it as that asset is somewhere there, just versioned in plain Git, and also it's rendered the moment I'm not editing that particular bullet point.
The problem I always had with the block-based editor, and Notion was really the only one I used, but it seemed to get in my way, like when I wanted to split the blocks or combine them, like it would mess up my formatting. Like my workflow of editing raw Markdown, it like would fight against me, it seemed.
Yeah, I definitely, one problem I have with the multiple blocks, I think that, for example, like combining these, it works pretty well. You press backspace and it combines it. You press enter, it splits it. You press shift enter and it keeps it in the same bullet point like that. Don't have often problem with that, but what I do have problem with is selecting pieces of long lines in a block where you just dragging, but if you drag a little bit higher up, it just destroys it highlights the block, and that pains me. That pains me so much. That's like the only grievance, like big grievance I have. It hurts every time I need to select a long line of block because it just removes my selection. Okay, pasting images I showed. Embedding videos is also relatively easy. I don't do it too often. Like I see YouTube videos as something that's ephemeral. Like I either make notes from it or I don't link it, because like somebody's going to take it down anyway, like in a year, and then the link is going to be dead. So I don't do that too often, but you can do video, paste it there, and then you've got a video, which also should be possible. I had never done that, but you can, when you are watching the video, there is a shortcut for taking the timestamps of it. So you have like a timestamps that you can click on and it rewinds the video to the place where you made a note, which would be really nice if you could trust YouTube that it's going to keep the video indefinitely, which you can't. So that goes against the longevity. All right. One thing that it can't do out of like by default the Logseq, but you can install plugin for it. They have a pretty rich plugin ecosystem. Is mermaid diagrams. So there is this plugins. The only one that I have installed is Fenced Code Plus, and then you can just create a mermaid and go graph top down A, B, and you have a mermaid diagram, which is really nice.
So is there a third-party plugin ecosystem, or are these all official ones?
Third party. They are all third party.
What are they written in? Clojure?
JavaScript.
JavaScript.
The whole app is written in mainly, as far as I understand, in Clojure script, which is Clojure dialect that compiles into JavaScript. And the outward-facing API for the extensions they provide in, like, it's a JavaScript API. So it's similar to VS Code in that regard.
Okay, and Obsidian, yeah.
Yeah. And pain points, if I press Command A, it doesn't do, like, depending on where you are, it either just takes the text that you are in, or it takes everything from the page, including the linked references. Like that doesn't work. I could really use that when I'm preparing some issue arguments or something in Logseq, and then I want to paste it in. You have to go here, say, export somewhere, export page, and then copy paste this. So that's a pain point. Selecting long text. Asset naming, I would really wish that when I'm pasting image, it would ask me what's the name of the image, because otherwise, as you saw, it just puts their image and some timestamp hash something, which goes against the longevity. When then I have a huge folder just filled with images like that, that's not. So I quite often go and rename the image to match what I want it to be named. I'm a little bit afraid of the bloat of the features, and it's pain to sync between my tablet, phone, and desktop, because like I'm versioning it in Git, and just that doesn't work too well. Like Git, it's not very mobile device friendly. That's pretty much it. So I'm using mainly on desktop.
There's other workflows you could use for that. Like, for example, you could sync it with Dropbox, but then have Git as sort of like a write-only push to version everything as one of your.
I tried it. I'm using SyncThing, and for some reason it started generating conflicts. Like Logseq started generating conflicts, even though there weren't any, even though I wasn't editing the notes. I'm not 100% sure why they did that. I wasn't debugging it, but I failed at trying something else than Git. That wouldn't happen with Obsidian, I'm sure.
That is their profit model. Like their syncing tool is a paid add-on.
I think the Logseq is going to have the same.
Syncing is really hard to get right.
So that was my presentation. I hope that you at least give a Logseq a try. It's really, really cool. So I just realized that we are making the security release today or tomorrow. So I might just post the video with little delay. And next time I'm going to make sure that my tabs are all closed before doing something like this.
You're pretty brave just using your real data. You didn't want us to see your journal though. That was where you
I deleted few of my notes. Like I'm actually not going to be saying which ones, but like I deleted about 40 notes yesterday. I just went through them and like through all 500 of them, or how many I've got of the pages.
Where are all the bodies buried? Note, you deleted that one.
Yes, exactly. Like my finances and stuff like that.
You don't have them anymore.
It's just in the, as you saw, it's the I'm not sharing. There is just a branch in Git that's called public notes. I'm just gonna destroy that branch, and
you delete them on the branch. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, Tomas.
All right. You are very welcome. Thanks for listening.
I had one final question. So the Zettelkasten method of like it recommends prefacing every note with a timestamp, a unique identifier prefix. And like Logseq doesn't do that. Like that's basically not necessary when you have the native linking functionality, or
yeah, I am not 100% sure how they keep the edited date. They used to keep it in one big metadata file. I think that now they moved into model of having the last edit and created and edited date as a part of the file. So that's one reason for the timestamp. And then the other one would be
named like in Logseq, like if you had two sections or files that were named like notes, right? You had a notes section in two different files. Would they conflict if you tried to do a backlink to them, or would it know which is which internally?
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen to, like when you have a note, for example, node called notetaking in Logseq, like it's impossible to create another node with the same name because, so that's the name of the file is like the unique ID. If you tried, it would just point you into this file. And if you
Can
have
link
blocks
to a header, like deep link to a block?
To this one, like when you create a copy block ref, for example, here, it just generates something like a unique ID. Then if I put it here, it's
Okay.
like you saw that this is the unique ID. It's some kind of UUID. And then that little bit messes up the markdown. If I now try to find the note taking in Logseq, you would see that for the blocks that you wanted to create ID of, it adds this attribute, like the metadata under the bullet point. So that's how they are doing like unique pointers to blocks. And pages are just the name of the page is unique.
It's like a little bit of a proprietary format. So it enforces uniqueness at the file level, and then it generates unique identifiers at the block level.
Yeah, these things are like as you say, proprietary. When you see the video reference here and the metadata, or like a block reference like this, that wouldn't work without Logseq. That was something that I was willing to, as a part of my longevity requirement, I was willing to kind of sacrifice on this, thinking the worst case scenario, if I stop using Logseq, I wouldn't know where my notes, like at least I wouldn't immediately know where my notes came from. For example, when I have a book, like some idea that came from a book, the backlink to the block wouldn't work. And that's something that I came into terms with.
And the alternative to that would be to use the original Zettelkasten approach, where it's a unique identifier like the date stamp and then the name of it. And then that is what you always use as your block reference or your link reference, right?
Yeah, I don't think that for referencing blocks within a page, you can get away without creating some kind of metadata like this.
Yeah.
Like for pages you can, but for blocks within pages, I think that you somehow need to paste there the unique ID that you generated.
It would have to be like HTML, like an HTML anchor, because that's valid markdown.
Yeah, you could, there's something like ID in a, like you could reference in markdown files, right? You can reference headings by using the ID that would be generated from the heading string. It's a little bit flimsy because you rename the heading and the ID stop working, unless you have some really complicated content CI like we do have for our handbook.
Right. Okay, thanks a lot. I appreciate you sharing this, Tomas.
All right, pleasure all mine. I'll see you soon. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.